meet again, Mr. Bond.
Designed to commemorate James Bond's 50th anniversary in film, 007 Legends takes players through a handful of the British spy's cinematic exploits, with one slight catch. As with Activision's reboot of GoldenEye, each movie adaptation stars Daniel Craig's likeness instead of the original actors. Yet while the proper anniversary gift is traditionally gold, the developers have instead given players the finger, releasing a game marred with technical problems, poor gameplay, and unexciting missions. Though the developers have included events from 5 different movies, the story doesn't attempt to unify the films under one narrative. Instead, the game approaches each movie like a flashback sequence, with Bond apparently reminiscing about his career while wounded and sinking underwater after an opening sequence based upon the upcoming movie Skyfall. Rather than explain Bond's objectives through briefings, the game throws players into scenes without any build-up or background info. If you haven't seen the movies on which the game's based, which include Goldfinger, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, License to Kill, Die Another Day, and Moonraker, you'll be left clueless as to why Bond is married in one scene or in a hotel room with a dead body in the next.
You've heard of natural selection, Mr. Bond? Survival of the fittest?
This is because the films have been condensed to just 2 or 3 action sequences apiece, and once you've completed them, it's immediately onto the next movie without any transition scenes to serve as a bridge between the films. It's jarring, and the piecemeal format squanders a potentially interesting concept, trying to rework disparate movies into a cohesive whole.
But alas, you won't be alive to see it.
007 Legends game design offers few original ideas, with the bulk of the content following the same format as Activision's flagship franchise Call of Duty. While that might not seem like a bad idea, the end result feels more like a cheap knockoff than an experience on par with the military shooter. On-foot missions take place within confined spaces, even when you're outdoors, so you're expected to keep moving forward while following a white dot indicating where you're supposed to go and how far you have to travel.
Just focus on the mission. Stick to your cover story and you'll be fine.
The game's single-player campaign consists of 11 levels spread across the 5 featured films, so you'll be revisiting such locales as Fort Knox, Blofeld's not-so-secret underground base, a space station, and an ice hotel, among others. Depending on the difficulty level you select, you'll either have 1 or 2 optional side objectives to complete in addition to the main story objective, which typically involves getting from point A to point B while eliminating any hostile resistance along the way.
Is this what you're looking for? Maybe you should tell me.
There is no thinking during the game, as even the most basic actions are spelled out for you in the form of textual cues to shoot here, hack this, or press that. As you progress through the maps, you'll duck behind cover and mow down seemingly endless waves of enemies until a set amount of time expires or you advance to a certain imaginary threshold. There's also a disturbing preoccupation with showing Bond's hands, and in some cases feet, during non-interactive action sequences that reduce the more interesting aspects of a movie into something that's watched instead of played.
Fight, you pig!
The single-player campaign is surprisingly short, with each movie taking less than an hour to complete. A 6th mission, based on Skyfall, is scheduled to be released as a free download in November. Once you've completed a mission, you'll receive a score based on your performance. Experience points accumulated during the mission are used to unlock perks such as extra health or weapon attachments like scopes, silencers, and larger magazines.
Go after him, James. Get the damn bomb.
In addition to the campaign, 007 Legends includes a separate challenge mode that has you trying to escape one of the levels within a certain time, protect objectives from waves of enemies, reach an extraction point, and so forth. The goal is to get a perfect star rating in each scenario, but it's doubtful anyone will have the patience to complete more than a handful due to the issues with gameplay.
Good. This shouldn't take too long.
While the game also includes online support for up to 12 players and a split-screen option for 4, 007 Legends multiplayer component is a mess. There are plenty of game types and customization options, as well as a Call of Duty-style ranking and unlock system, but severe slowdown, twitchy animation, boring maps, and unbalanced weapons serve as constant reminders that just about everybody does multiplayer better. The Gameplay in 007 Legends is a tedious slog through missions that make you feel less like a spy and more like a gun for hire. While the format is obviously inspired by Call of Duty, the gameplay can't compare, with inconsistent frame rates, idiotic AI, and guns that feel like cheap plastic toys with no kick or weight behind them. There are plenty of enemies to shoot at, but the challenge is only based on their sheer numbers, not their skill in combat. Guards will run around as if they're confused. They'll fire at you one moment and then turn around to flee as you shoot them in the back. Enemies will even trot across your line of fire, taking damage in order to stand in a different spot. Some will shoot at their cover instead of above it, while others start somersaulting as if they're practicing for the Olympics. Apart from the shooting gallery sequences that make up the bulk of the gameplay, 007 Legends includes some stealth sequences, short vehicle stages, and scripted melee encounters, all of which are simplistic. While the game encourages agents to sneak up behind guards and take them out, you can't move their bodies, so it's often a few seconds before another guard or camera sees the fallen enemy and sounds the alarm. Boss battles and certain enemies are fought using a melee system that locks you into an up-close view of your target as you use punches to the face and body to subdue them. Both the left and right analog sticks are used to punch with each hand as players follow on-screen visual prompts like a QuickTime event. These sequences might as well be on autopilot, making boss encounters an anticlimactic event. The most interesting aspect of the gameplay is the use of gadgets, which have you unlocking safes, hacking security systems, scanning fingerprints on keypads, or shocking enemies with a pen. Sadly, the gadgets are often underutilized, forcing you to use them in very narrow specific instances. The levels simply don't offer that level of engagement. Again, you're more a commando than a spy.
Goldfinger, do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die.
Eurocom has a long history of developing Bond games, beginning with 2000's The World Is Not Enough on Nintendo 64, so it's puzzling why Legends looks several years behind other games. Players will notice shockingly simplistic textures, enemies that have the same 2 or 3 death animations, explosions with no oomph, environments more hazy than sharp, a frame rate that bogs down at seemingly random times, and close-up camera work that's more shaken than Bond's Martini. Even the audio is disappointing. Guns don't sound remotely realistic, and James Bond isn't voiced by Daniel Craig. The latter wouldn't be as much of an issue if the actor didn't sound completely bored. Of course, after playing through the missions, one can sympathize.
If you insist.
007 Legends was clearly rushed to market, and the publisher had such a spotty track record with the franchise that it's high time for the Bond license to be revoked. Uglier than Jaws and shorter than Knick Knack, 007 Legends doesn't expect you to gawk. Oh no, Mr. Bond fans, it expects you to cry. Mission succeeded.
I've decided it's time to clean the slate and start over ridding the world of pestilence like yourself.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.